whispers, lost in my doubts, tangled in stories I can't live without. But there's a fire, it's burning inside, calling me forward, I can't run and hide. It's not about perfection, it's about the climb, breaking through the limits, one step at a time. With every breath, I'm closer to the dream, a life that's bold, a heart that gleams. Be great, stand tall, rise above it all, let your light shine through, answer the call. There's power in you, don't hesitate, this is your moment, go on, be great. The mirror's reflection, it shows who I am, but it's just the beginning, not the end of the plan. Through trials and heartache, I've learned how to fight, to shape my tomorrow. I start with tonight. It's not about the shadows, it's about the flame, fueling the courage to rewrite the game. Every step forward, I leave fear behind. Greatness is waiting, it's yours and it's mine. Be great, stand
Hey, hello. Hey, head of steel. My name is Burkham, and I am the founder and CEO of the Idea Academy, coaching and consulting firm to help people get from where you are to wherever you want to be. All about getting people unstuck. And I also do this every Thursday. Every Thursday we come together for this is Be Great live stream. And I like to talk about different ways that we can be great. It really is all about that process of getting unstuck in your life. Today, I don't know. A lot of times I come into these, I have kind of an agenda. Sometimes I even have taken a bunch of that, but today it seems like there's so much going on that I am just it I'm just gonna let it kind of go free form today. Gonna go a little bit different. It may not be as polished as what you're used to. It may not be as smooth as you, but hopefully there will be hope. I hope that you'll participate and interact. That's one of the reasons I was talking to some recently about podcasting and that I've had a couple of that have approached me over the last couple of weeks. Said, what you really need, really want to sell your stuff. You really need to do is podcast, and you have a podcast and you invite people on. Mike is dropping out occasionally. Are you getting that on Twitch? I am getting sound is random drops. Try that and see if that's any better. Okay, it's okay. Let's crank the volume up a little bit. Huh. I don't know. See if that's any better. Well, hello and welcome in. Thank you for letting me know. It's also happening on Twitch. Okay, cool. Thanks for letting me know, Tal. I appreciate that. Hopefully that is a little bit better. I had it in Zoom mode. Zoom is a little bit excuse me, handles the microphone a little bit differently than Twitch and YouTube do. So hopefully this is better. Let me know if it is. If it's not, then I don't know. Hi everyone. Yes, Mike is fine now. Thanks, Eve. Hello, Eve. It's good to see you. Welcome in, and congratulations, everybody. Congratulate Eve on her new job, which is super good. I hope that's going well for you. Super excited to hear more about that. But congrats, indeed, indeed, indeed. But yeah, I was talking to these marketing guys, and they said, "So far, so good. Excellent, excellent." So and they were talking about, yeah, you need to have a podcast, you need to have people come on. And I think that's all good. I think that's all true, is that I should have guests come on the show and things like that. But, you know, a lot of times the focus of those things is, getting people to it's creating content and being able to have stuff to put on Instagram and whatever else. And one of the reasons that I've always liked to do this with you guys here, just kind of in this forum, is that there's this level of interactivity. So even though I don't have you here in the same room, I can't talk directly to you and have you talk back to me. The ability for you to get back to me in chat at least makes it so that we've got a two-way thing going. I don't know. I don't know if I have anything to say that really would be worth listening to on a one-sided conversation. Starting in November, that's so good. Eve, I love that. Can't wait to hear more as well. But ironically, let me start with a little bit of an announcement. So I was just this morning, I was invited to provide the closing keynote speech for a very, very small event, a small invitation. Well, it's not invitation only exactly, but it is a limited attendance. A conference that's happening down in Los Angeles on October 10th. And I'm really excited about that. It's a conference that's largely around communication, which, as you all know, is one of my passions. And so, this morning, I met with that group, and they invited me to give a little bit of a keynote at the end. So I'm excited about that. Hopefully, I'll come up with something that is meaningful to that group, as I hope to come up with something that's meaningful to you as well every single week. There's so much going on. There's a lot going on. Where should we start, guys? Where should we start? I know that I kind of threw the topic up for today that we would be talking about what to do with aggressive people or people who get in your face. And I think that's the thing. This all comes from some kind of an event that happened locally this week here for me. You're switching to receiving your warehouse. I saw that, Tal. That's is that a good thing? Is that a good move? I'm hoping it is. And also I'm hoping that you get back into your house this week. I know you've been out of your house for a while. But this event that I'm talking about that happened locally here in town this last week, where I was gone. By the way, I've been gone. I guess I should speak to that as well too. For those of you who are in my community and who know a little bit about me and who have followed me, you know that I've been pretty much offline for a week. I was back on Monday night, and I'll be back the rest of this week. But I've been gone. I went to Nebraska to visit my grandmother. My grandma is 95 years old, and so she is very old. As it turns out, 95 is extremely old. And so we went back to visit her. Went and stayed with my mom and dad, who are from here, but we rented an Airbnb with them. And my grandma lives in this very very small town. It's got about 700 people in it. It's the town where my dad grew up. And, it's funny, he takes you on the tour, and the tour lasts about 20 minutes because that's all there is of the town. And saw some of my relatives, my aunt and her kids and their kids, and spent time with grandma there in the house. She got to meet our daughter, Serenity, our youngest, who she had never met before. And so one of the reasons that we wanted to go back was we wanted to make sure that grandma got a chance to meet Serenity at some point, and vice versa also, so that Serenity got a chance to really kind of know who her great grandmother was. It's hard, guys. Getting old is hard. Listen, I am already well on my way to old, and it's not easy. I can't imagine what it is to be 95. I mean, she's in pain all the time. She's tired all the time. Her brain is still very, very sharp. She can remember all the birthdays and anniversaries, and it's crazy, but it's just life has become hard for her. And I think about that stage in our life that we're all going to get to. I think about when when we're at that age and we're looking back across the life, or God forbid, something happens to us between now and then. But when we're that age and we're looking back at our life, one of the things that I'm asking myself is, what do I want? What do I want to be able to say about my life? What do I want to be able to look back on and say, that's what I did with my life? And of course, nobody can predict. Sometimes things are going to go right, sometimes they're going to go wrong. Life is going to take twists and turns that we don't expect. But I don't know about you. I'd like to be able to look back at my life and say, the places that I went by intention. The places that I went on purpose. I did not stand by and wait for life to happen to me. I made life happen. And when it changed, I changed along with it. So I wonder what your thoughts are. Let's see. Tal says, I had a coworker become aggressive in my department over a pallet jack. It was hers because my supervisor did not follow proper SOP. I had to reprimand both of us in a morning meeting. That's delightful. That's not great. So internal position opened up and I jumped all over it. I'm losing my trainer pay, but I'm also losing drama. Well, sometimes we make those trades. I'm hoping it's a better situation for you. It's a good example, Tal. This is a good example of a couple of things. First of all, of what I'm just talking about now, which is you can let life happen to you, or you can make life happen. It's the choice is really up to you. And I know that sometimes it feels like the choice is not up to you, but I want to assure you that it does. So Tal had options, right? She had a lot of options. She could have taken made a lot of different choices in there. She could have fought back. She could have pressed the issue. She chose to move to a different position. And that was the direction that she chose to go. But the point I'm trying to make here is that she made a choice. It wasn't, well, I'm just gonna go and bury myself and then just hope that things turn out. I don't wanna make hope into a dirty word because I do think we need to build a discipline of hope. I wrote about this recently. I think we need to build a discipline of hope where we really have a belief that the best is possible. And if you don't have that in your life, I hope that you find it. And I would love to help you build that discipline of hope in your life because there are some things that you can do to really believe that, to start to see the good instead of the bad. But if we don't start from a place where we've decided that the good is possible, it's really impossible for us to move toward the good. Does that make sense? If I don't believe that there's something out there that's bigger and better and more important and that it's there and that it's within reach, although it may be difficult to reach, then why would I ever move anywhere? And I look at some of these people and I think about this small town, and I don't want to call anybody out, but I think about this small town that my grandma was from and about some of the people who live there and who have lived there all of their lives, and talking to some of the people. And some of them are just bitter and sad. And one person in particular that I can think of, and had a chance to talk with her a little bit, and it really was, it was sad because it's very clear that at some point she came to a place in her life where things didn't go well. They didn't go right. And she ran out of will to continue moving towards the best future. She settled for the future that was in front of her instead of continuing to move towards a better future. If there's a message that I would like to get across to you, if there's a thing that I would like to help you avoid in your life, it is that right there. Because I don't think there's any way that you get to 95 and you look back over your life and having settled for just whatever future happens to you instead of the best future, you can look back and say, you know, I lived a life of meaning. I lived a life of purpose. I lived a life that went somewhere. I lived a life that impacted people and that caused things to happen. And I just don't want that for you. I just don't want it for you. I don't know. Maybe there are people who are happy with that, but I just don't think that those people are you. I don't think you're here if you're satisfied to just settle for what life handles you. So don't. Take action. And we get in love with big actions. We get in love with the big, what I call execution moments, the big giant things that happen. Sometimes we get so anxious in waiting for those things or preparing for those things or looking for them that we don't take the small actions that really make the difference. And I'm talking about everyday things that you do. What do you do on a daily basis? What are some things that you're doing on a daily basis? Because it doesn't take as much effort. That's true. That's exactly right, Kitty Cat. And by the way, welcome in. It's good to see you. It's safe. Yeah. Yeah. You know, here's the thing. It is safe to wait it out and to prepare it out. But how do you go from waiting for life to happen and making it happen? And at what point is it too late to try? Excellent questions. Perfect questions, Eve. So I'm going to answer the second one first. At what point is it too late to try? The answer to that question is it's never too late to try. So my 95-year-old grandma, and she's, by the way, not the one I'm talking about here when I'm talking about the person who kind of let life happen to them. I don't want anybody to think that's the case, but my 95-year-old grandma, she could make up her mind today to make some changes in her life, and they could be meaningful. And maybe the last year or 5 years or however many years she has left, maybe those are the years that could in fact be most meaningful to her. So at what point is it too late to try? My answer to you is it is never too late to try. Never. Right? So you have to start. But here's the answer to the first question. And it goes back and it goes a little bit into what Kitty Cat is talking about here, right? Because we wait for the big moments. We wait for the Cinderella kind of things to happen in our life when, somebody comes in and they give us our big shot, or, they give us our big break. And it's very safe to wait for that day and to prepare for that day. It is less safe to go in unprepared. And what I want you to start to think about is, how do I go in unprepared? But not really unprepared. How do I make everyday preparation? But forward moving preparation instead of standing still preparation. So it's all going to boil down to what I call the disciplines of life. Disciplines are the things you do every day. So the question is, what do you do every day that is moving you forward? You obviously, the first thing you've got to do is you've got to determine who you want to be. Many of us have already talked about that. I talk about that at great length. Without the identity component, you really don't make any. It's impossible to move forward because you don't have a target. You're not aiming at anything, and you've got to have a target. As much as systems are important and habits are important and disciplines are important, you do have to have goals, and those goals should look like, hey, this is the person that I want to be. This is the person that I want to become. So for one guy that I'm working with, for example, the person that he wants to become is a better communicator, is a person who is better at communicating. And so when we work together, the questions that we're asking on a daily basis are, what are some daily things that I can do that will move me towards being a better communicator? And guys, I'm not talking about, going to the gym for an hour every day. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about small single steps that move you in the right direction. You have to know where the direction is first, and then you have to take the steps. Right? So, for example, let's say you want to become more of a brave person, or more of an assertive person. So you start by thinking about one interaction that you can have a week where you can, assert yourself a little bit more. Go into, maybe it could be going into a restaurant and ordering off of the menu. That's that's something that might be challenging for a lot of people. You go into the restaurant and you see what's there, and if you're having trouble with assertiveness in your life, it it could be hard for you to just ask for something that's prepared slightly different than it is on the menu. But that's an example of a small thing that I would do to start moving yourself forward, because what happens is, when you make that order and people don't blow up about it, or if they do, if it's a big deal and they make a big deal out of it over it, and then you realize, okay, but I'm still standing. Or better yet, if they don't make a big deal out of it, and you can say to yourself, oh, okay, well, if I could do that, then maybe I can take the next step and the next step and the next step and the next step. So the way that you go from waiting for life to happen to making it happen is one step at a time. It is not a giant leap at a time. The opportunity for leaps will come, but what keeps you progressing forward are the steps. I have also learned all of the job tasks from my old department now, and I'm learning new skills and making myself more flexible for the warehouse. I love that. So good, Tal. What a great way to look at that. What a great way to think about it. Incredible. I, you know, I since we're on the topic of assertiveness, I was talking about this local event that happened earlier, and the idea that there's a local nonprofit that's here in one of the towns that I work in. And it's not one of the nonprofits that I consult with, obviously, as you're about to find out. They had a board meeting recently, and their board meeting was open to the public. And to make a very long story significantly shorter, there are apparently two factions within the board of directors of this organization. And one faction doesn't agree with the other faction, and so they're kind of split, and some of them stopped showing up for a while, and so according to the bylaws, maybe they're kicked off the board, and we don't know. The point is, there was this board meeting that was called, and it was open to the public, and people came, and the one faction of the board that decided that they were in control and they didn't want the other faction to be in control. They tried to cancel the meeting. They tried to get everybody to get out. They told people they were trespassing. And it turned into this thing where, people from the public were coming and trying to make statements about the status of the organization and all of the great things that it had done in the past and why they felt like it had gone astray in the present. And this other faction was very aggressively shouting people down. And it was to the degree where there's one lady who stood up to make a statement, and here she's trying to make her statement. And there's a guy who's literally standing behind her, and he's saying, blah, 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 blah. He's yelling, shouting this out at her. Have you been with people like this? People who are just unhinged? They get aggressive and crazy. And I had another person talk about how, this guy had his phone in people's faces and he was recording them. And it's really hard for some people to lose control. And that's a big part of where we are at in the world right now, is that we've made it all about who and what we can control. If you listen to the rhetoric and if you listen to people talk, you will hear a lot about who's in power, who's in control, who's making things happen, who is doing what to whom. And so we're constantly dealing with people who are afraid of losing control. And here's what I wonder. What if what if control is not the thing that is in play here? But what if it's what we're trying to control? You ever think about that? So politically, right? We know that there are political factions in this country, and I won't dig too deep into that, although I can't really avoid it. It's a part of the topic. But politically, people get really up in arms because they feel like their control over the country, maybe, or the culture, those things are at risk. Have you heard that kind of thing? Well, we just need to get control back. We need to, to coin a phrase, we need to take America back. You notice those words are chosen so very specifically. And they're chosen around the idea that we once had control, we have lost control, and now we're trying to take it back. But what I want to suggest to you today is that if you are dealing with people who are being aggressive, or they're being highly opinionated, or they're being in your face, or they're shouting blah, blah, blah behind you, the control that you need to have is the control over yourself. Self-control is specifically what you need to become an expert at. Because the people who have the most self-control are the people with the most power in the end. Let's take, for example, the blah, blah, blah guy, right? He felt out of control in that moment. And so he did what he did to regain control, to dominate that situation. And you know what? He dominated that situation. It was really hard to shout louder than him. He's a big guy. He can yell really loud. But in the larger scheme of things, he has now lost control of the narrative because he lost control of himself. So when he failed to control himself, when he failed to listen to the other side, to let them have their say, when he resorted to essentially verbal violence, that's when he became the bad guy in the picture. How far are you willing to go to make a point? That's something I think we have to be really reflective about. I've known people in my life who have gone so far out of their way to make a point that it was just, well, if you do something wrong to me, then you're just cut off and we're not going to do it. Or I've been shouted over before. I've been yelled at, had people get aggressive and up in my face. And I'll tell you what, those people never got what they wanted. They didn't get what they wanted from me. Outside of maybe in the moment, right? In the moment, they might have gotten a little bit of a response or a reaction from me, but they never got what they want. They never got my loyalty. They never got my compliance. They never got me to agree with their point of view. And so when I see people who are politically kind of shouting down the other side, I wonder if they realize that they've already lost. I don't think that they do. And we're the same way when we insist that everything kind of goes our way. This is one of the things as a leader that I have to be really careful about. I was with a group, one of my groups that I lead today, and one of the ladies in the group said, I'm really happy that we have such a diverse group of perspectives that are here. And I said, that's one of the things that you guys have to hold me accountable to. If I don't create a situation where there are diverse perspectives in a room where we're trying to solve problems, then you need to call me out on it. Because if all of you agree with me all of the time, then we have a problem. Because we're gonna miss stuff. We're gonna leave stuff on the table. We're not gonna see obstacles before they come. I need somebody who disagrees with me. I have to have that in my life. And I hope that you also are figuring out that you have to have that in your life as well. Because it's the people, and you know who they are. I don't have to name names. You know who the people are on the national, on the big stage, who have to have everybody agree with them. Those people are the people who they may have power for a moment, but they will be powerless in the long run. And I don't want that. I don't want that for you. I don't want you to be that person. And I don't ever want you to be the person that reacts violently. And I'm going to use the word violently. I'm not talking about physical violence necessarily, but I just don't want you to be a person who reacts violently to opposition. Listen, I hope that I say some things that you don't agree with. I hope that I say some things that you don't believe in. Because if I don't, then, either you're drinking the Kool-Aid or I'm probably watering some of my message down. A little bit of what anybody who's good says should make people uncomfortable. I hope that sometimes some of the things that I say make you a little bit uncomfortable. I think that's a good place to be in. But to go from being uncomfortable to feeling threatened, that's a very deep problem. If you're so if we're, I'll include myself in this. If we are so shaky in our thought, we're so we lack so much confidence in our thought that we have to lash out when people say things that we don't agree with, then honestly, our thought's probably not good. It's probably not worth having. Are there any types of exercises that help me learn how to control my emotional reactions better? Because I'm extremely passionate and have a hard time holding it back. That's a great question, Tal, and I'm glad you ask it. It's really where I'm going with this. So let me just cut to the chase here. I called today's episode "Practice the Pause" because the pause is everything. I wrote about this today in my devotional that I write daily. I was writing about the discipline of gentleness. And a lot of people think of gentleness as being, meek and mild and, kind of just letting other people walk over you. But that's not really when we're talking about the word gentleness in the framework that I'm talking about. That's not what it is. The ancient Greek word for gentleness, in fact, is really the word for restrained power. So that's why I lead up to all of this by talking about power dynamics. I hate the phrase, but I talk about power dynamics a little bit because true gentleness is restrained power. So the question is, how do you restrain your power? Because me, I'll tell you what, I can win most arguments. It, there's no nice way to say that. If you and I get into an argument and I want to win it, it's a pretty strong possibility that I will win. Now, in order to, yeah, see, this my wife knows exactly. Now, in order to win, if winning is my goal, I might not play fair. I might twist your words. I might make it so that you sound like you're saying things that you're not saying. I might even say things that I don't believe in just to make a point. But I can win an argument. That's my power. And there have been times in my life that I have used that power for evil. In fact, when I was younger, I was really bad at it. And I would just, it was kind of the situation that I grew up in, and so I did not maybe do the best at that when I was younger. But what I have learned is that when I restrain that power that I have, I get a lot more things solved in a right way because I'm able to work with somebody instead of working against them. See, it's all about now, a big part of it is about how you see the outcome that you're looking for. What is the victory condition? If the victory condition for me is to win the argument, then all bets are off. I can play by whatever rules. But if the victory condition is in fact to solve the problem, then I have to listen. So you asked about exercises. So there are a few different things that I'm going to say to you. The first thing is this: pause. Just learn to pause. Whenever you feel like you have to react, and I did a very bad job of this recently, as a matter of fact. I had some things happen, and I popped off and almost instantly realized that I was over the edge and had to backtrack and apologize and the whole 9 yards. But the first thing that I have taught myself to do is you have to pause. And you can practice this. When you're practicing the pause, the discipline of the pause, you don't have to practice it just when people are when people are in your face. Practice it in conversation. This young guy that I'm talking about, where I'm working with him on his communication, one of the things that I keep having to tell him is get used to silence. Yes, pause, exactly. Get used to silence in communication. It's okay if not every second is filled with noise. It's okay if the other person stops talking and you don't immediately have a response to them. We get so busy filling the space in our lives that we don't give ideas room to bloom. We don't give sentences time to land. We don't give ourselves time to process what the other person's saying. So stop. Just stop. When someone's talking to you, stop. Make sure you really listen to them. And if you didn't listen to them, then ask them. Even you can even say, "Hey, I'm sorry. I don't know if I caught that. Could you repeat that for me? My brain went somewhere else." Or it could be just you summarizing. "Hey, this is what I heard you say. Is this really what it is?" So the first thing is pause. Just give yourself space. And the second thing is then that I would say is ask a question before you make a statement. So when you're dealing with difficult people, when you're dealing with somebody who's in your face or who's aggressive, you let them, first of all, you let them do their thing. Don't try and interrupt them. It's not going to go anyplace, right? Let them do their thing. And then when they're done, And sometimes it'll take a while before they're done. But then when they're done, you take your moment, pause, and then you ask a question. And sometimes that question could be, and this is where you have to walk a fine line because what you don't want is for that question to be, did you realize you sound like an idiot right now? You don't want to ask that kind of question. The question could be, uh, pro tip, when you repeat their statement, don't include profanity unless you used it first. That's fair. That is fair as well. Um, Question could be, are you, are you meaning to be insulting to me? Because that feels insulting, right? So I'm asking a question about their intent because sometimes people are just passionate about things and it's not personal, but it comes out. And if you're that kind of person, by the way, and you get passionate about stuff and it's not personal, it's really important for you to let people know, to communicate that. Hey, listen, sometimes I get really excited about stuff, and sometimes it seems like I am saying this to you. I'm not saying it to you. I'm just really passionate about stuff. So it's okay to ask people if that's what's going on. And you know what? Sometimes that will make them pause themselves and it will make them ask the question to themselves. Am I trying to be rude here? Am I trying to be insulting? Am I trying to be confrontational? Another great question is, what would you like me to do in this moment? You know how disarming that can be? Just think about it. The other person automatically assumes that whatever they want is not what you want. If you're in an argument, if you're in a fight with somebody, they're going to automatically assume that whatever they want is not what you want. Like Juju's passion for scaring the bejesus out of me. Yes, exactly. He's very passionate about it, and that's okay, kitty cat. That's okay. But he needs to communicate that with you. But when you're in an argument with somebody, when you're in a conflict with somebody, the natural thing is to assume that you want two different things. That's why there's conflict. So sometimes it can be really disarming just to ask the other person, "Hey, what do you want from me here? What would you like me to do? As a result of everything that you've said, what action would you like me to take?" Because then, first of all, it might catch them completely off guard, and they might go, "You know what? I don't know. I just wanted to rant a little bit." Then you can go, "Okay, cool. That's fine. Your ranting is not gonna it's not gonna bother me. It's not gonna affect me. I would prefer that in the future, you give me a heads up about it or, but if I know that you're just somebody who needs to rant, then that's fine. We can deal with that a different way." But maybe they do have an action, they have something that they want from you. And if they do have something that they want from you, then you can have a conversation about whether that's something that you can do or something you can't. So let's go back to the board meeting, right? Let's go back to Mr. Blah, 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 blah. So he's talking, he's saying his piece. The right thing to do in that moment would be to say to him, "Okay, I'm hearing that you have problems. What would you like me to do as a result of those problems?" And if his response in this case was, "You need to leave, you need to get out," then we can have the conversation about, well, here's why I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that because this is an open forum, an open board meeting, and we have some things that we need to discuss. And until we've discussed those things, we're not going to go anyplace. We're not going to yell, we're not going to argue, we're not going to, I mean, we're going to have some conflict here, but there's no reason for it to get escalated. We're just going to let's talk some things out. Would you agree to listen to me as I have listened to you for just a few minutes? That's another thing. When you come into a conflict situation like that, try and set a time limit. It's kind of like feedback. One of the things that I always recommend for people when they're learning to accept feedback is make it like time bound. Say, "Listen, I'm going to give you whatever it is, my book or my podcast or whatever it is. I'm going to give it to you. And then I'm going to let you give me feedback for 5 minutes because that's all I can take," right? Partially because if it goes over that, I just can't incorporate it at all, but also partially because I'm really nervous about this or I'm really passionate about this or it's really personal to me. And if I go beyond that, then it might shut me down. So same way when you're in conflict. hey, let's hash this thing out, but let's do it for 5 minutes. Let's not try and solve all the problems tonight. Try and solve this one problem. Maybe this one problem is, should we be here or shouldn't we be here? Right? There's a concept that I think I may have made up. I'm not sure, but it is, and I talked about this on the show before. But the concept of MARC, M-A-R-C. Are you familiar with my acronym MARC? MARC is this. It is the minimum amount, minimum amount of required context. One of the reasons debates get heated and arguments get out of control and people get crazy when they're fighting about political things or personal things or whatever else is that they bring all of the context into the one argument. Like at this board meeting the other night, people wanted to talk about any number of things, maybe fundraising efforts or community connections and engagements, selection of different programs or things like that. And when you open the floor to every topic, to every single topic, and you make the conflict about all of the context, you will not make progress towards any one part of the conflict. You got to solve one thing at a time. This is the same way in meetings. One of the reasons that your meetings are terrible, one of the reasons we all hate meetings is because you go to a meeting and what do? We try and solve all of the problems at the same time in the meeting. So we go over, I was consulting with an organization and I went in and I said, okay, what meetings do you have? And they said, we have a staff meeting on Monday. I'm like, awesome. What does that look like? And they're like, we go over metrics and our grants and the programs and services and this. And I'm like, wait, you go through all of your business every Monday? And they said, yes. And I'm like, that is unsustainable. Unsustainable. Because you cannot keep people's attention for an hour while you're solving every problem. Honestly, in an hour, you could probably solve one or two problems. So, if I'm walking this back, right? Number one, pause. Practice the discipline of the pause. Number two, ask a question before you make a statement. Engage the other person. Let them know you heard them. Because honestly, that's all a lot of people want, is to be heard. They don't necessarily need to be agreed with, but they do need to be heard. And you know what? That's okay. It's okay for you to hear people. It's okay for me to hear people even when I don't agree with them. That's okay. Being heard is fine. And then the third thing is, don't bring all of the context into the one fight. Try and deal with one problem, with one thing. And then the last thing is, try and take an action away from it. Okay. So, we kind of dealt with the problem. We dealt with this. Let's make sure that we've got something to do now. And for you, as a person who is intentional about growing in your life, that thing that you do, it should be in the direction of becoming the best version of yourself. If you're coming out of an argument and it's been a misunderstanding, then your takeaway from that should be, I'm going to try a little bit harder to understand what's going on in this context before I start making judgments. The hardest thing in the world. That whole fundamental attribution error is a nightmare. That's where we judge other people's actions to be based on their character, but we judge our actions to be based on our circumstance. So, when I cut you off in traffic, it's because I had someplace that I really had to be, or I just didn't see you and it was a fluke. But when you cut me off in traffic, it's because you're a bad driver and a bad person, right? So you gotta let go of the fundamental attribution error. That's really important. You have to remember that everybody acts in context. That nothing happens outside of context. That every person on the other side of an argument is dealing with something. You have to seek to try and understand what that is. The only way to fight fair. The only way to fight fair. You also have to control your inputs. So if you listen to a lot of information about, I'm going to use just for example, if you listen to a lot of people who are telling you about conspiracy theories all the time, your brain, it's a familiarity, you know, it's a familiarity bias. Your brain is going to start to believe conspiracy theories. It's just what it is. So the more you listen to it, whether they're substantiated or not, you're going to start to believe those things. The more times you hear a thing, the more likely you are to believe it. That's a brain thing. Eve says, when I see bad drivers rushing, I always imagine they have a big urgent poo coming. That calms me down. Exactly, Eve. That could be it, right? There could be things. I don't know what that person's context is. But control your inputs. So don't listen to stuff that takes your brain in a suspicious direction. You know, there is no good cause for suspicion. There's no need for suspicion. All suspicion does is it makes us look for the worst. But if you learn to look for the best, you will find that you are not suspicious. And you don't have to be naive. You can deal with obstacles when they come. You can be aware that, that sometimes people are going to act in ways that you don't want them to. But there's no good reason for suspicion. It's never gotten anywhere, any place good that I've ever seen. Don't be suspicious. Don't be paranoid. Control your inputs. Listen to good things that speak good into your life. Listen to people who tell you you are capable. Listen to people who believe that you can argue, that you can have differences of beliefs, and that you can still act together. There's a lot of stuff in the atmosphere right now about unity versus disunity, or divisiveness and division. Those are two big buzzwords that are coming along. Let's see. I heard someone say the other day that it takes the same amount of energy to assume the best about a person as it does to assume the worst. On the one hand, that's true. But on the other hand, I think it takes a lot less energy to assume the best about a person than it does to assume the worst about them. Because if you assume the worst about a person, you're always on guard. It puts your nervous system in that constant sense of being on guard. But if you naturally assume that, that people are pretty good, that they have pretty good intent, and that they're not out to get you, it lets you operate your life from a more relaxed state. And anytime, I used to teach this when I was teaching kids to act, I would say, you know what? The number one reason that people forget their lines on stage is this: they forget to breathe. When you get on stage, and if you're having a hard time remembering a line, the first thing you have to ask yourself is, am I holding my breath? Because guess what? You get on stage, you get nervous, your line's coming up, you hold your breath, all of a sudden, guess what your brain does? It stops getting oxygen, and so it goes into fight or flight mode. It's like, hey, I have to send all of my resources to, my muscles to be ready to run or whatever else. And none of that goes back into the cognitive part that's actually remembering the line. And it's the same way in your life, too. If you live your life waiting to exhale, if you live your entire life holding your breath in anticipation of the bad things that are coming, you're never going to allow your highest self to operate. I think the energy exerted may change based on your habits around assumptions, too. Like if you have the habit of assuming the worst, it takes some energy to break that habit. Agreed 100%. That is very true. That is true. But once you get through that, once you start to teach yourself that, you know what, not everybody is out to get me. Not everybody is out to take power away from me. Not everybody is out to teach my children that bad things are good things. Not everybody is out to take away control over my this, that, or the other thing. When you start to teach yourself that habit of saying, not everybody is here to fight me. then you move into a much easier way of living. Guess what? In the long run, when people do come to try and take those things from you, when people do challenge those things, you're going to be in a much better mental state to overcome them because you're living your life from calm. You're living your life from control. Be careful about letting yourself get out of control because it's an addictive habit. It feels like a win in the moment, but it's a loss in the long run. So those are a few things that I have. I don't know. Those are some things, and I hope that some of that's meaningful. I know there's a lot going on out there right now. I don't know if you've got anything else that's going on. By all means, please feel free to throw it in the chat. I've also got the question and answer that's always up, so don't hesitate to throw stuff in there if you ever feel the need. I don't see anything in there today, but those are some of the things that I would give you for this week. Again, I will be speaking at this conference that's down in Los Angeles. If you're interested, if you happen to be in the Los Angeles area, or if you might want to travel down there, the link is in the Discord. I shot it in there, and I can actually drop it in here too. I'll drop it into the chat just in case y'all watching the replay or doing whatever you do, you might become interested. Oh, that's not it. Copy. Paste. Nope. All right. Well, maybe I won't do that. But yeah. So anyway, so that's going on. Check out the Discord, and you will find me there. Between now and then, if you have any questions, of course, I've got the question and answer link that pops up every once in a while here. You can always ask those questions offline. You can send me a DM by any means on over on Discord. If you're not in the Discord, in Twitch, !Discord gets you in there. We talk about this and about gaming and other stuff too, but that's just kind of our online community. It's about 200 or 300 people, and they're good folks in there, so don't hesitate to get that up there. There we go. Thank you so much, Head of Steel. I appreciate that. I'm gonna let you guys go, and I'm gonna get on to my afternoon as I want you to get on to your afternoon. But if there's anything I want you to take away from today, it's remember that the only control that really matters at the end of the day is your control over yourself. You cannot control other people. You cannot always control your circumstances, but you can always control your response. So pause, ask questions, make other people feel heard, insist upon actionable takeaways, and move towards the best version of yourself. But it all starts with the pause. So if somebody's in your face, somebody's in your space, somebody's wanting to fight you or be aggressive or any of those things, if you don't like what they're saying, let them finish, pause, and then ask those questions. All right, guys. Listen, I am so proud of so many of you. I know Eve with the new job. Thank you. Today was great as always. Thank you, Eve. I appreciate you. And Tal, so proud of you with handling your situation as well. I hope everybody is good out there. I will see you. I'll be live again tomorrow night for my Friday Fright stream over here on Twitch. Till then, I will see you all, and I want you to remember that no matter what it feels like right now, growth is happening. Growth is happening in your life. It may just be the one little thing you decide to do differently today. And Eve, when you ask me about how you start moving towards your better life, that's it. One little thing. Just one thing. Just decide. Be intentional. And you will grow every day. That will cause you to reach your greatness, which I know is waiting for you. If it's not coming for you, you got to pursue your moment. I love you guys. Have a good week and be great.
I've been caught lost in my doubts, tangled in stories I can't live without. But there's a fire, it's burning inside, calling me forward, I can't run and hide. It's not about perfection, it's about the climb, breaking through the limits, one step at a time. With every breath, I'm closer to the dream, a life that's bold, a heart that gleams. Be great, stand tall, rise above it all. Let your light shine through, answer the call. There's power in you, don't hesitate. This is your moment, go on, be great. The mirror's reflection, it shows who I am, but it's just the beginning, not the end of the plan. Through trials and heartache, I've learned how to fight, to shape my tomorrow. I start with tonight. It's not about the shadows, it's about the flame, fueling the courage to rewrite the game. Every step forward, I leave fear behind. Greatness is waiting, it's yours and it's mine. Be great, stand tall, rise above it all. Let your light shine through, answer the call. There's power in you, don't hesitate. This is your moment, go on, be great. Through the storms and the pain, I'm finding my way again. With purpose, with heart, I'll never fall apart. It's the journey, not just the end, a story that begins again. I'll build it, I'll create a life that resonates. Be great, stand tall, rise above it all. Let your light shine through, answer the call. There's power in you, don't hesitate. This is your moment, go on, be great. This is your story, it's time to ignite a life of intention.